Hello everyone and welcome. So how do you use copies and replicas of historical objects in your storytelling and in your interpretation? There are many ways this can be done, and some of them can actually work really well both on their own but also in connection with, for example, the original. So let's just have a look at some examples, and please remember to like, subscribe and add your comments as well. First of all, I think the most obvious one is reconstruction. So for recreating tools, having a look at various techniques, various materials, also how fragile some objects or materials might have been, or how robust indeed they might have been. And there is a wonderful way of also engaging visitors and really dive into visitor participation here as well. So let visitors try out what's it like walking in fabric like this, what's it like working with a tool like this or with a weapon like this. And also this might sometimes lead to new discoveries of, for example, the use of an object. Maybe it's used very differently from what we had imagined first. It can be new technology, or it can be indeed the skills that were needed for operating a particular tool or working with a particular material. Also, it's possible to reconstruct, for example, original color schemes, or experiment with, for example, artistic impressions. Now, here is an example of a rune stone from Denmark in Jelling. You can Google it and have a further look at the history behind it. You have the original there to the right, and a copy to the left from London, actually, with an artistic expression. But it's two very different visual interpretations you get out of artistic impressions, but also of experimenting with colors, especially when it comes to objects that may originally have had quite a lot of colors. You can try to reconstruct the original colors, or you can indeed experiment with new artistic impressions. Another huge benefit of using copies and replicas is getting up close to the detail. Now, here is an example from an exhibition, a traveling exhibition called Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. I think it traveled, but these photos are from the Cannon Factory in London from 2021. And the different images of the Sistine Chapel were copied and printed, and it was an amazing printing technique. You can really get up close. It was set up with some of the images there you can see sort of above you, so you had to put your neck back and look up as you would do in the Sistine Chapel. But also you could get up really close to the details, so you could see the cracks in the paintings. You could follow every single brush stroke. Now, this is of course something that wouldn't have been possible at all in the actual Sistine Chapel, because if you've ever been, you would know that the ceiling is actually quite high up above you, so you can't see the detail at all. But getting close to the colors, getting close to the brush strokes, the cracks, every detail, also the eyes especially come alive when you get up close to them, and also really diving into some of the details of the stories of each of the images. Actually, I have to say, I would have kind of liked to see this particular exhibition in a room next to the original Sistine Chapel, because then you really get to feel the atmosphere of that place next to actually getting an opportunity of diving into the stories and into the details. I'm not sure if that's possible from an exhibition perspective, but that would actually have been really lovely, and it's a great way of using copies and replicas. Also, create storytelling in new settings. So bring the stories outside, for example, or in a completely new setting from where people are used to seeing them. Now, here is an example from York in England, from all the way back from 2008, where various famous paintings were copied and hung up in different places around the city. So on walls outside shops, on down by the riverside, in parks and so on. And apart from being quite a bit of a surprise seeing paintings outside, it was also a completely new way of engaging with art outside, and And I think a lot of people actually started to look at some of these well-known paintings in a very different way, because they were in a different context. They were not in the original museum context, but also, of course, the light was different, obviously, depending on the weather. You could get up close to them. They were copies, so it wouldn't have been a complete disaster if they had been harmed. But the fact that you could engage with art this way was really something that created a completely new way of engaging and of interacting with stories like these. And it's a wonderful way of being able to use copies and replicas and experiment a bit with them, both from a sort of user perspective side and actually trying out tools and various objects, but also from a visual perspective and from a storytelling perspective. I think there is a lot said for using replicas and copies sort of next to the original, so you still have the feeling of seeing the original object or visiting an original site, but at the same time you actually get a better opportunity very often of engaging and participating and really diving in to the details of an object as well. Let me know about some of your examples here. What worked, what didn't work, how did you find it? Have you used replicas or copies of objects in a particular context? It would be really lovely to hear about your experiences.